Right, so our first story here, now I'm not going to be putting the story on the screen, but we're going to be watching a video of it in a bit, I call it an ESPN freakout. An ESPN freakout, and it comes actually from a person who's a, what do they call her? Sarah Spain is what they call her, and she works for ESPN, and she got really upset about something that was taking place, and it's the idea of you will comply. So in this thing, if you're not aware, I'm a baseball fan. I really am. I don't watch a whole lot of sports, to be honest with you. I enjoy playing them. Now, I have been to a major league game a couple of years ago. I actually made the trip out to Toronto and took in a couple of baseball games. One was actually not so great, driving through downtown Toronto traffic for the very first time. I ended up with a pretty bad migraine, so I left the game early. But the next night was the Boston Red Sox versus the Toronto Blue Jays. That was a great night. Something like, 40,000 fans there. No, I did not have a hot dog in the stadium. I am not paying $12 to $20 for a hot dog. I had one out on the street, which cost me like $1.75, maybe $2.25. And it was good. But baseball, I'm a baseball fan. I enjoy the games, and I was excited when the game MLB The Show came to Xbox. I'm an Xbox player, not a PlayStation player. Sorry for the PlayStation fans. But this kind of took place. This one has to do specifically with, I believe it's the Tampa Bay Rays, or the Rays. Yeah, Tampa Bay Rays. And what it is, the Tampa Bay Rays, their organization decided, since it's June, to virtue signal, just like pretty much every business around, and say, hey, you're going to wear the Pride colors, kind of thing. And what it actually is, it's a Pride patch, I guess. And I didn't even know what on earth it was supposed to be until I really read the article. It's supposed to be like a Pride explosion, I guess. It's kind of a ridiculous looking thing. It doesn't look like it belongs at all on the uniform. That kind of, but they were saying our players are going to wear this in support of the LGBTQ community. And there are 5 players on the Rays who refused to do this. And I'm going to applaud them. Now, I'm going to give you their names on the Rays. Now, I'm not doing it to shame them. I'm doing it to applaud them. I really am. On the Tampa Bay Rays, it was Jason Adam, Jaylene Beeks, Brooks Raley, Jeffrey Springs, and Ryan Thompson. And they actually wrote, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to see a discussion a little bit, where they honestly said, we cannot do this due to religious freedom, religious conscience. Now, it's not just any religious conscience. It is Christian conscience. But let me get to the story here. Let me pull up the little bit of a story here. The video where Sarah Spain kind of goes off, kind of thing. Sarah Spain goes off on about the players. So I'm going to play it here for you.
Tampa pitcher Jason Adam to the Tampa Bay Times. Hard decision because ultimately we all said we want them to know that they are welcome and loved here. But when we put it on our bodies, I think a lot of guys decided that it's just a lifestyle that maybe, not that they look down on or anything or differently, it's just that maybe we don't want to encourage we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from that behavior.
Okay. That's what they said, okay? I think it's a good note. And notice what they say. Even here, they're hitting things. And there you can actually see the patch. Like I said, it's absolutely ridiculous patch. He's like, look, we want them to know that they're welcome and loved here. Now, I don't know anybody who's been thrown out of a baseball game because of a lifestyle choice or anything like that. You may be thrown out to disobeying the rules, like jumping out on the field, getting too drunk, causing a disturbance, that kind of thing. But I've never seen a case where a baseball fan was thrown out due to a lifestyle. And notice, so they want them to know that they are loved and that they're accepted at the game. They want you to come watch the game. Of course they do, because without fans, a sports team will die and a sports league will die, except for probably like the WNBA because they're subsidized by the NBA. But that's another matter entirely. But notice what they say, and it is in there. It is just that maybe we don't want to encourage it if we believe in Jesus. So they're talking about a Christian viewpoint. What did Jesus say? Jesus said no to this lifestyle. In fact, the scriptures call it an abomination. And so we do not want to put a patch on our uniform which says we're in support of this. Now, you would think that, hey, that sounds great. Hey, that sounds good. But the question goes, in this episode, this show on ESPN, I'd have to look up what the actual show is, but basically it's like a game show kind of thing, and each person's asked questions, and based on their answers and stuff, they get points. Now, I'm going to be honest here, Sarah Spain gets 0 points for this answer, and that's a good thing, but at the same time, I want to play her view, because I think it's becoming more mainstream than we'd often like to think. Let me go back to the video here.
Sarah Spain, how does that all come off to you?
Pride is about inclusion, so you don't love them and you don't welcome them if you're not willing to wear the patch. And calling it a lifestyle reveals to me that you've done not even a modicum of research or understanding on this topic. It's what tends to happen when a privileged class isn't affected by things. This is not just about baseball. That religious exemption BS, which is used in sport and otherwise, also allows for people to be denied health care, jobs, apartments, children, prescriptions, all sorts of rights. And so we have to stop tiptoeing around it because we're trying to protect people who are trying to be bigoted from asking for them to be exempt from it when the very people that they are bigoted against are suffering the consequences.
When you say trying to be bigoted,
they're trying to use religious exemptions to affect the opportunities, services, available resources for people who are LGBTQ+.
All right. So that was Sarah Spain's kind of, I don't know, her stance on the issue. Now, that might have been a lot to take in because she's talking a little bit fast there. But let's kind of break it down a little bit. What she's talking about, and I do want to talk about it. Notice that she starts with the statement that if they're not wearing the patch, they're not loving, they're not welcoming. Because she says it's about inclusion, and you have to wear it. In other words, you have to be accepting of it. This is why I said you will comply. You will comply. Now, I'm going to be frank right now about the Tampa Bay Rays. The coach manager, one of them, he's not going to throw the players out for this, but I just want to show Sarah Spain here, because there are people who would agree that you should throw them out. They don't agree with this. They shouldn't have jobs. They shouldn't play the sport. And I would say sports are supposed to be apolitical. They're not supposed to be anything in sports. What I'd also find very fascinating is that I almost guarantee you that Sarah Spain here would be celebrating Colin Kirkpatrick for anything that he does and calling him a hero and all that for making political statements on the field. And yet... that's football for you, for those who aren't aware. But calling these 5 gentlemen bigots and hateful, and saying that they can't accept any of it. And this is where the danger is coming in. Because notice one of the things she talks about, and this is where critical theory has infiltrated everything. I've talked about critical theory plenty of times in the past. And critical theory is one that it just causes issues. It looks for problems. And she uses the statement... She says, this is what tends to happen when privileged class isn't affected by anything. She calls them privileged class. Now, I don't call them I wouldn't call them privileged classes because they don't agree with the homosexual lifestyle. I would call them the privileged class because they're getting paid exorbitant amount of monies to hit a ball with a stick and throw it. I played baseball for a few years, and I played competitive baseball. I didn't get paid to play baseball. I had to pay to play baseball. I played competitive basketball. I had to pay to basketball. I did competitive Olympic wrestling and won plenty of awards in it. I had to pay for that stuff. So that's what I would call privilege. But what is she talking about? She's not even upset about that. What she's really arguing about is the statement here that religious exemption BS is used in sports and otherwise. And then she'll go, I want to talk about a little bit of what she's referring to here. But she's saying religious BS in sports and otherwise. In other words, you should not have a religion that contradicts what they want. This is, you will comply. You will comply. or you will lose your job. You will comply or you will lose your business. You will comply or we're not going to allow you to go here or go there. Now, it hasn't gotten to that point yet, but it is getting there. Now, she's on a show, on a public show, making the stances. As I said, the only good thing is I didn't watch it, but another person said she got 0 points for it. But if she's saying this, she can't be alone in that kind of thinking. She's not. And I think there's plenty of people who agree with it. Now, they may argue about the patch here, but when they talk about other aspects, they're going to lump it together and people would applaud it. They would. So she's talking about this idea of religious exemption and calls it BS. That there should be no such thing as religious exemption in anything. And there, do you remember back when it was like we just want to get married, we're not going to do anything else? Now it's pushing an ideology on everybody that you must comply to it. And they try to force you to do it. The businesses try to force it on you. That if a business doesn't do it and they don't pledge their woke to the woke masters once a year, then they will lose business and they'll try to shut them out. That's what June really is. It's the time for them to come back and get their mark to the woke culture, their mark to the LGBTQ masters. And yes, I'm purposely using the word mark in this aspect because in the book of Revelation it talks about the mark of the beast. Is this the mark of the beast? No. But it does talk about the mark of the beast, that if you do not pledge allegiance to the beast and worship him and take his mark, you will not be able to buy or sell. Think about what happens here. If a business refuses to put up the LGBTQ mark, refuses to put up those colors in a particular way, saying we support them, whatever, they'll try to shut them down. They'll try to close them out. They'll try to get rid of them. That is what is happening here. And it's saying you will comply. But then she goes on. Look at what she says. It says that they're using religious BS and sports and otherwise to allow for people to be denied health care, to be denied jobs, to be denied apartments, children, prescriptions, all sorts of rights. Now, I want to challenge a couple of those things. I don't think anybody is saying that LGBTQ shouldn't have a place to live. I don't think they are. I think she's trying to do a Mott and Bailey fallacy here. She's trying to lump everything together. And when she's saying they're being denied health care, and she's probably referencing the idea here that laws are being passed that children under the age of 18 should not be given transition surgery. They shouldn't be. When she says they're being robbed of prescriptions. She's not talking about penicillin or amoxicillin or anything like that, like insulin. She's talking specifically about hormone blockers, something that when somebody takes, it will truly mess them up. It actually has side effects, and we don't even know the full side effects of what's going to happen if you continue, and these youth continue to be given hormone blockers until they say, hey, they can make the decision. So their logic is if somebody is suffering from gender dysphoria and we don't want to give them the transition surgery, we just want to put them on puberty blockers. We want to delay their puberty for however long it takes until they decide what they want to be, whether they want to be a man or a woman, even though they can't define those terms. Anyway, they have no idea what's going to happen. What happens if somebody's on puberty blockers until they're out of their teens? Are they going to develop normally? Is their body suddenly going to say, hey, here's the testosterone that you skipped during those years, here's the estrogen you skipped during those years? We don't know. But she's building this big fallacy around it. And she makes out this statement here. She's saying that we've got to stop tiptoeing around it. And these people who are saying that they want to be protected, it's like, we got to stop them from doing this. She says, we got to stop protecting these bigots. You will comply. That's what we're running into here. That you're going to comply with our agenda, or we're going to take away these things. They say that we're going to take away you're taking away their rights to these things. No, we're going to take away your rights. And if you don't think that has happened, just look at what has taken place. Bakery shut down because they refused to make it. Photographers sued into oblivion because they refused to celebrate these things. It's no longer just, hey, we want somebody who's going to say, hey, we'll just leave you alone. It's not enough for you not to be bigoted. In other words, not for you to say, hey, I'm not going to go out and honestly persecute them. you now have to agree with it, and you've got to shut down anything that doesn't agree with it. This is critical theory. But it's the idea that you will comply to this. You will comply. And that's really what she's calling for. She's calling them bigots. She's saying that they're just looking for excuses to be hateful. They just want to persecute. And she says that and the fact that she's using the statement religious BS means she's going after all of it. And although she is one voice speaking out, as I said, she got 0 points on it, she's not alone. There are others who are very much in agreement with this. Hey, I just want to thank you for watching. If you like the content, want to subscribe, like, tell a friend, get the word out. Also, if you want more content, you can follow me on YouTube, on Rumble, or you can even download the Foundation with Steve Teed podcast and Take Me on the Go, found on almost all podcast apps. This couldn't happen without you, and I encourage you, build on a strong foundation.